Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another episode of Building Web3. Today, we're lucky to have two guests instead of one from Interact. We have Sambhav and we have Approve. Um, let's kick things off by introducing Interact and getting to know both of you. Sambhav, do you want to go first? And then we can let Approve take on the reign from there.
Sure, no, absolutely. And let me just kick this off by saying good morning, good evening to everyone, and good to talk to you more. I'm really honored to be here and to be talking with you about the future of marketing in Web3. So yeah, on that note, very quickly a little bit about myself as well as about Intract. So Apurva and I, we're the co-founders of Intract, a project protocol that we started about a year back when we saw this kind of a glaring need for, or like I would say, lack of a proper way of marketing in Web3. Like unlike what we see, in the Web2 world, where you have these strategies, you have these playbooks, you have these platforms where you can advertise, and just you have this, well-defined way of acquiring users and engaging with them. In the Web3 space, we felt that while that is an equally important problem to solve, that's just something that's completely missing right now. And with that intention in the back of our hearts, we sort of deep dived and started building. And it's honestly been nothing short of a roller coaster. Very quickly, about a bit more about myself. Before this, I was like a finance pro. So I learned traditional finance, working at a private equity firm called Blackstone. And Apurva actually have had the, I would say, privilege of knowing him since our university days together. So known each other for almost a decade, and glad that now we're not just friends, but more than that, also co-founders and partners in crime in this space. But yeah, over to you, Apurva.
Yeah, glad to be here, everyone. Good morning, good evening. Like Samba mentioned, I'm Apurv, one of the founders of Intract, and I lead product and strategy here. So in case you guys want to try any of our products or you have some bugs that are like persisting in the product, feel free to reach out to me at any point in time, whether it's like 12 a.m., 2 a.m., whatever time zones. That's me. And I think prior to this, I was a consultant at McKinsey, where I looked at digital transformation for fintech companies. Super excited, build something in the Web3 space that should run marketing, which I think is like, super important to really grow the space and make it as mature, as impactful as the Web2 bandwagon that, we have all gotten so familiar with, but without all the evils around it. So that's essentially, what you're trying to do here. Over to you, Mo.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that, guys. Really interesting. So, how did this opportunity come about? I mean, everyone, I would say, is building their shipping as they're building for the users, right? So, how did you and your team identify this missing link about marketing to the community and managing the community?
Yeah, so I think there are two parts to this. The first, just to kind of elaborate very quickly on some of the background that we have. Apoorv actually has had experience of hacking together communities. More in the traditional digital ecosystem. A third co-founder also has experience of basically bridging the need for data and CRMs and attribution into the marketing ecosystem that he's also has done in his prior life, as well as I, who has worked with some of the marketing giants without naming any of them in my past life. So basically, our experiences, the kind of skill set that we brought to the table, kind of automatically converged. And it was like the universe telling us that here is a problem that needs to be solved, and it needs to be solved ASAP. And our experiences sort of just propelled us into that direction. So that's the first part of it. But that's, I would say, not even the scratching the surface, right? Because the most important part of I think building anything in any space, we feel, is of course to build it not just for, but with the people that we're building it for. So I think the most important part, which has sort of if helped us in our evolution, is to actually be in very regular touch with all of the marketers, the people who are hacking their projects into becoming growth rocket ships, or managing the communities, or heading the marketing functions. People like yourself know that we have been talking to, getting feedback from, iterating with, and asking them about what some of their challenges are and how we are best placed to perhaps solve them, is really how we have become as well versed about this space as we are right now, and what has put us in this position to build the tools that we feel will be able to support the marketers in our journey of making Web3 massive.
Yeah, this is a very interesting point. I think me and Abu was talking about this just prior to kicking things off live, about how your team and your approach is quite unique when it comes to dealing with clients, I would say, right? As opposed to others where your product, even though it might look like a cookie cutter approach, is quite personalized based on a lot of conversations that happen, behind the scenes. You are taking constant feedback from the user or community leaders such as myself, and reiterating on it constantly, personalizing it, which pretty much goes a very long way, as opposed to just saying this is what we've built and it's a great fit for you.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
definitely right. And given that Web3 is so new, I think it's important to sort of, grow with the ecosystem and adopt to the changes happening here as well. Which is why, speaking very closely to the community is super important to even decide what to ship next, right? Or if,
Hmm.
what you shipped last week is actually going to work the next week after maybe this one. So super important to like, be in the present, evolve. And if you look at the biggest success stories, whether it's a company, whether it's any organization, I think it's primarily been because you've been able to really tap into the power of your community and understand their needs and build it with them more than just for them.
Exactly right. Let's explore a bit about your roadmap. So let's discover that a bit further as to where you are now and where are you headed. So let's start with how big the team is at Interact, and then let's move on to the roadmap.
Sure. So, just quickly answering about the team size. Right now,
Hmm.
we're a team of about 15 to 20 folks. We quite recently have ventured to expand our team with a more global footprint. And now, quickly, our customer base, some of the people that we're working with, is kind of also reflecting the global geographical footprint that Web3 itself has. So that's one. More about the roadmap, Mo, I think we kind of touched upon this already. The importance of getting feedback, of being in
Hmm.
touch, of iterating with everyone. And I think the natural next step that we've come to realize. To sort of move even to move forward even more in this direction is to actually decentralize this and take it one step further. And what that means is that basically Web3 is kind of like a paradise for us, right? Because we were talking about building for the community and by the community, and Web3 presents us the ideal opportunity to go ahead and implement that, not just in terms of how we build the product, but also in terms of how we get feedback on it. And now our plans, our immediate roadmap includes a plan to reflect that. We are very excited to sort of like announce this, and this is the first time that we're actually revealing this publicly.
Oh, some alpha here now. Let's hear it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I'm glad that we are here in this forum with you to talk about it for the first time with the community. So we are actually in our immediate roadmap now going ahead to launch a premier, very exclusive marketing DAO. The objective of this DAO is to kind of build that community of people that we're actually looking to solve these problems for, right? Can we basically get them together in that one platform, like the one we are in here right now, where
Hmm.
we can have these kind of discussions to brainstorm about the future of marketing in this space, to think about what are some of the challenges that plague us, and how can we best solve them. And we feel that like being a part of this community not just gives us kind of that direct access to some of the tools that we will be able to built to bridge these challenges, but also just network with each other and share some of the playbooks and the insights about what works best, so that all of us can really learn from each other in the true spirit of a community, and use those and apply those learnings to scale our projects to new heights. But yeah, go ahead, Approve. Feel free to add something if I missed anything.
No, no, I think pretty much covered everything. A team of 15 looking to not decentralize, looking to go the DAO route, get marketers more involved, right? And at the same time, we also have a lot of products that we've built up. So we sort of, created that, portfolio of products that you're now moving towards alpha launch. So, that's also super exciting because, we'll get more feedback about it and then eventually, build even more exciting products with the community, using the whole power of Web3. That is, DAOs, governance tokens, super exciting
That's
stuff.
yeah, interesting. So you're almost building a think tank of DAOs, of marketeers and connectors coming together,
Yeah.
sharing their information, experience, but also learning from each other. On this, now talking about Interact itself and the dashboard that it is, let's dig a bit deeper into that. Let's explore that as to understanding how does it help or elevate a marketeer, a community leader, or even a project owner,
Yeah.
like
So
in
like this,
terms of when it comes to its functionality, right? So, mhm.
yeah, yeah. So I think if you look at fundamentally what marketing is, right, it's basically being able to communicate with the person who sort of, came to know about you in a way, right? And that communication has to be effective, that communication has to be targeted to the right channels at the right time, right? And then hopefully, that converts into sort of that person trying out your product. And if the product is great, then they stick around and eventually, you sort of create that relationship with them, which also has an economic component, but also more of a sentimental component also, right? Building brands around, the company and all. So from that perspective, if you look at Interact is helping with two core functions. The first core function is understanding your audience. So whether it's your community, whether it's your wallets, whether it's your website traffic, right? Being able to make sense of that, user base that you have. Because right now, most of the channels, while it's great for communication, not super good for being able to understand your audience through some analytics, through some, ability to really figure out from the noise what each person's, requirements are, what are they thinking about your project. So
So
that's part.
yeah, you
Yeah.
almost help build a user persona, so as
Yeah.
to speak, right? Where extracting on-chain analysis or behavior of that user or that community member, yeah, a project can better help identify them as to where do they fit best in the community and what step or what stage can they move on to next.
Exactly. So that's one. And then finally, with that data, actually taking actions, right? Whether it is, creating a high ROI referral program, whether it is, doing the right airdrops, focusing on people who actually bring value and not say hunters or folks who are just there for the quick bucks, right? So taking the right action that's required to, keep them engaged, keep them incentivized. So that's probably the second part, the right actions to take basis the user personas that you have created, right? Which could range from engaging them on Discord to, doing airdrops onto the wallets to,
Hmm.
incentivizing them to talk about your Twitter, everything in the loop that's required for you to sort of grow as a company. And maybe Sambhav can add a different perspective, a different flavor to it. Over to Sambhav.
Yeah, no, I think Apurva you covered it. The only like different way that I would kind of look at it from is that there's kind of like one common theme that unifies everything, or the root of like all of our aches, right? And
Hmm.
that is basically the lack of science in Web3 marketing today, or the lack of data. So how does this manifest, right? What does this even mean? So let's say you have a community, but you don't know which of these are actually the people, or the wallets that actually hold your tokens, and because you don't know, how can you even begin to exclusively communicate with them or offer them perks, or think about it from a different perspective. You basically did a marketing campaign, or you partnered with the KOL and you got some people, but how many of these are actual power users or whales, and how many of these are perhaps just bots or hunters that are just there for the quick buck and are going to leave you the quickest chance that they get. So all of these are problems that exist because there's a lack of visibility, lack of access to information, while running these marketing campaigns in
Mm-hmm.
different forms, right? And so that's really where we come in. Now, this of course can be solved in a lot of different ways, and that is why we have different features and different suite of products that we're building to kind of solve each and every manifestation of this problem. And Yeah, no, that's just like a different perspective. But yeah, no, like happy to expand on any if interesting.
Yeah, let's explore a bit more into it. So let's explore where your product is now. I do know, as a user myself, that you're functional. It's working. But for the new listeners, let's walk them through about what is Interact's functionality, in terms of what does it really do for community managers, for project owners, for project managers, for project leaders. How, what do they get from it, and how could they then utilize those features and functionalities towards the better optimization of their product or their community.
Yeah, definitely right. So let me just talk about say the top three I'll say use cases that we have seen community managers and marketing managers leverage Interact for, right? And the
Hmm.
first one essentially is targeted whitelisting and airdrop. So if you're doing a campaign and you want to look at folks who essentially hold your own token or are blue chip holders or have like been super interactive in your community, so being able to identify those folks and then being able to whitelist them for a potential airdrop, and even going a little bit further, right? So not just limiting it to off-chain actions but even on-chain actions. So did you say go ahead and buy my own NFT in the last 24 hours from say a Magic Eden or an OpenSea, right? And
Hmm.
did you actually pay me your royalty from that, right? If you did, then maybe you sort of get an extra alpha priority whitelist, right? So those kind of complete on-chain and off-chain data collection to give projects the ability to whitelist only the folks they want to whitelist by running on-chain off-chain quests. So that's one. That's sort of a very important prioritized use case. Second important use case is in line with what Sambhav said around creating those engagement playbooks, right? Creating that science into the whole marketing of Web3. So being able to run your marketing campaigns on Discord, on Telegram, on Twitter, and then see the dollar value impact or see the engagement impact of that content to understand which content works better at what point in time with what kind of an audience, right? That can help you create that engagement playbook, so to speak. So super important, I'll say, another important functionality. And the third, I'll think say the most important use case is also being able to communicate with your wallets, right? So being able to link their Discord to their wallets in a secure manner and making sure that you're able to communicate with your token holders in a more noiseless manner as compared to Discord, where you have so many channels and sometimes your VIP holders might miss out on some announcements. So that
Hmm.
sort of exclusive communication bridge that Interact builds for basically marketing and community managers to sort of speak to their most important members by creating an exclusive role, an exclusive channel in Discord. So those are the, I'll say, three products that are already live more or less as part of our Interact CRM and Interact token gating offerings. And
Hmm.
there's a lot more exciting stuff currently cooking with the team that we're building with now.
Yeah, congratulations, by the way, on your new website. So I see that the team is now really positioning itself, I would say, to go more public, be more visible. And as you are building and offering tools for marketeers and building the marketing DAO, let's dig a bit more into that. Let's explore that. What can you share around that? What was the vision around creating that DAO, and how do you see it coming to life?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So great question, and something that I think is close to all of our hearts as well. The DAO basically, if I have to talk about very quickly where we are right now and what's in our roadmap in the coming future. So the idea here is to kind of have the who's who of marketing in Web3. So people more like yourself that we wish to invite and be a part of this exclusive community. And again, like compared to some of the other approaches in Web3, we actually want to make this kind of like a closed community, so that there is some bit of control. And of course, this control will be with the community itself, but some control and on what kind of narrative and what kind of discourse goes on in the community. We want it to be focused around marketing. We want it to be focused around community engagement, around how to hack to that growth levels that everyone wants to achieve. And for that, there is some incentive in getting the access to this community and the alpha that is going to be shared within with only the top tier marketers or Web3. And of course, this is going to scale up with time as we realize that there are more and more use cases and more kind of people who wish to get into the DAO. But for right now, the idea here is to basically get the creme de la creme of marketers in Web3 into one place where it's almost like a think tank mode. I
Mm-hmm.
love your description of it. Right? It's kind of like a think tank, which is building the future of marketing together from this one decentralized forum, and we just want to become the kind of platform that facilitates that.
Yeah, yeah, exploring this, right? So, as at least from my experience, the way I see the transition from Web 2 to Web 3, there's so much when it comes to marketing. Now, Discord being just one of the tools in a specific, I would almost say like Discord almost fits, at least personal opinion, right, to a certain demographic of users. It fits to a certain type of community, where, I mean, just because of the functionality of Discord and what it offers in terms of add-ons and features, it has attracted and it does continue to attract an audience on a larger scale. But then what you end up attracting could be far less technical, let's say, in terms of competitiveness, but more active when it comes to shilling, or being more active just when it comes to communicating. Do you see Interact evolving and offering the same to other channels or other products as well, integrating into other alternatives to Discord at some point?
So more yes, I would say, because the way we look at Discord, I think it has become a go-to platform for communities, or at least the two-way engagement that happens in a lot of communities. But at the same time, we also see a lot of other tools that are as crucial, in maybe some other part of this entire marketing funnel. So, for instance, a Discord server is a good way to engage with the people in your community. But how do they even get to know about you in the first place? Right? That's
Hmm.
not something that people can do on Discord, and that's an equally important part of attracting the right people in your community. And we see a lot of that, for instance, happening on Twitter.
Hmm.
Right, and so that's one important part where we feel which we also include as a part of the community. And another way of looking at it is that what about, let's say, the people or the wallets on chain that hold your tokens, right? Or perhaps go and connect their wallet on your app, or connect their wallet to your protocol and end up interacting with it. Perhaps might not be in your Discord server, but are equally important, if not more important, than some of the people there, right? And do you maybe not include them in a community? We think that they're as equally important a part of your community as anyone else. And so the way we look at community is basically this all inclusive ecosystem of different stakeholders, be it your contributors, be it your community, be it your Discord members, be it your Twitter engagement followers, or be it your protocol users as well. And so all of them we sort of put into one huge bucket and call that community. And so the idea of serving the community with our tools automatically kind of expands to not just be restricted to Discord, but to include the building that data layer for your community on chain as well that's using the product, or building and access to information about your campaigns on Twitter that you may, let's say, do in partnership with another community or with in a partnership with your KOLs. And so, how you do get information about that too, and basically bridging this layer of information, connecting this data from all of these different sources into one platform, which helps you optimize the marketing strategies for the future of your project and for Web3 in general. Basically, long story short, that I know I kind of like talked about, I went around the entire universe to come back. But the long story short is still that our tools are not just related to Discord, but even on chain and Twitter and eventually other forums as well that are already on our roadmap.
I mean,
Uh,
already live across Discord and wallets, so that way I think
right.
two keys in a way will like. Yeah, go ahead.
On community and the future of it, given that we're collectively experiencing a bit of a down market, bear market, depends how you stand and look at it. We've seen quite interesting narratives evolving, speculations happening. Let's discuss that a bit in terms of how do you see the next bull run, and what kind of community do you think will it give rise to?
Yeah, no, so that's an interesting question, and I think if we knew the answer, or we could prophesize about what the future is going to look like, then we would be so fortunate. But of course, happy to share our opinion, and happy to in fact hear yours as well about what you think the future is going to look like. But I do feel, or at least have reasons to feel that what's happening now, this kind of like a movement that's beginning to now take place in the bear market, especially, is that a lot of the noise is actually now dying out, right?
Hmm.
I think what's happening now, that there's now an increased focus compared to maybe like a year back or 2 years back, again on quality, and we see that being reflected in communities as well. So I think what happened sometime in between the bull market was that the focus became a lot more on achieving vanity metrics about how many people you have in your community, or how many people follow you on Twitter, versus how many relevant people are in your community, or how many users actually use your protocol. And now we see that focus slowly kind of shifting back, as people now scrambling to try and find the right people, focus on the people who you can actually build with, people who can actually share feedback, people who are actually the right fit for you, what you're building. And so we see this trend kind of playing out with a lot of our partner projects, and we do feel that like when the next bull market comes, right, people who've been there for a long time are going to remember the importance of having or focusing on the right people using information and data, rather than just focusing on vanity metrics. And who knows, that might actually be a welcome change in the next bull market. But no, but would love to hear if you guys disagree with me, or if you have another point of view to share.
I have some similar views, I think, when it comes to that, right? I think what again, this is a very subjective opinion, and it's a personal one, where I think what happened was, this prior bull market gave rise to so much news and content. And given that we have so many channels of distribution, everything from TikTok to now currently the YouTube Shorts, Instagram being one of the most active one, where somehow Web3 news gets diluted and misinterpreted quite easily. Um, to bringing this attention of Web3 being this get rich quick, easy flip aspect, and not so much around by saying that it's just an extension of whatever Web2 was offering and what they missed out on. Where they failed is where Web3 is now trying to bridge that missing link, right? Whether it's privacy, whether it's data monetization, whether it's really bringing an individual much more closer to the founder, to those investors, to other community members. Now, the way I look at it is, you own, let's say, Nike, I own Nike, great. We both flex it. we'll talk about it as if we are ambassadors for it. You never get to really meet the team behind it, especially you don't get invited to many events unless you're someone important. Whereas in Web3, if you're a part of that community, you unlock perks, whether it's in real life events, as you said, airdrops, token distribution, gated content access, more exclusive connectivity, but then also just the access to so much more education, information. Web3 is really, I think the most common phrase used is we're still early, right? And we say that from both perspective, from the user perspective, but also from being the person delivering to the users, is we're learning from each other and we're learning so much. Everything from how to optimize the product itself to how to make it almost seamless, where Web2 users, the ones that we want to onboard, the next million, the next billion, how do we create that relation with them where they don't even feel it? And one of the best examples that comes to my mind from the quite recent news is what Reddit did with NFTs. I mean, what they onboarded 3 million users by calling it digital collectible.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I think the interesting part about Reddit NFTs is the utility that the NFT or the avatars create in that ecosystem. So I think
Hmm.
that's essentially what you've been talking about in general, like the future of Web3. So, the first few bull runs were mostly about, making money, getting that kind of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the lowest rung sort of, getting fulfilled. But now, as more people have come in, the utility layer gets built on, and on top of that, you start seeing people sort of, coming in for that, and not just for say profits and all that, right? And that's what Reddit has, proven through a very simple example at the end of the day. Taking away all the hype from NFTs and just creating a avatar that's so cool to look at, so useful in the ecosystem. So yeah, super excited about that as well.
Yeah, let's talk about on that, on NFTs, right? And Interact itself. You mentioned now your dashboard, but before we proceed, there's one more question actually I had, which was really interesting. Interact. Who's your target audience when it comes to collaborations? Is it DAOs? Is it guilds? Is it DeFi projects? Let's explore that a bit further.
Yeah. So I think our target audience is basically a B2C project in Web3. Ideally, perhaps have launched a token or have in the process of launching one. Have a fairly big sized community already that they're now looking to scale, or perhaps be able to leverage in order to get the most out of their vision and what they're building. And now, of course, one big chunk of traction that we've actually gotten is from one segment that we focused a lot on, is actually NFT communities and gaming communities. So basically the idea being that a lot of they're basically building an ecosystem, right? You can call it a metaverse, you can call it
Hmm.
a game, you can call it some kind of utility community, right? But all of those built around these collectibles, as Reddit calls them, or NFTs. And a lot of their use cases also derive from the fact that, okay, they want to know who exactly are these people who bought these non-fungible tokens, where did they come from, how can we sort of use that information to find more like them, grow our community, also offer perks and utilities and special communication to those who already hold it, or perhaps hold multiple ones, or hold it and not just list it on a marketplace or flip it
Hmm.
instantly, right? And how can you sort of identify all of that? So a lot of common use cases that stem from this entire ecosystem that we're focusing on more and more, which are NFT communities, metaverse projects, and gaming companies as well.
Yeah, but just to add to that, right? So I think the idea is that going ahead more essentially want to talk to people who know that vanity metrics, while they're great, it's about getting the relevant users into your platform that's more important. So
Hmm.
founders believe that they need a more science-backed view of, acquiring users and engaging them, rather than, just give it a shot and hope the community blows up. So that's
Right.
broadly
I
DeFi
think
as well,
we,
and DAOs
yes.
as well. But yeah, till now the focus has slightly been more on NFT and gaming, to be honest.
Yeah, I think this is a conversation we've had a few times, right? Where we had the discussion about whether measuring vanity numbers is helpful and healthy for a community, or whether it's identifying and drilling down into the true contributors. So I guess that's where Interact plays its part of really clearing the smoke in the room almost by saying this is what the reality is, this is how it looks like, because your basic discord metrics might not be as reliable, but this is what you really are getting for it. Talking about Interact on this, what chain is it accessible on right now? You guys are multi-chain, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yes, we're multi-chain more. I think we're live across all the biggest chains, including Solana, Ethereum, Polygon, Avalanche, Binance, Ronin. I think we are all, have a few more in the pipeline we're building out. The way our tech is built out, we're able to quickly scale across chains. So most of the bigger, blockchain ecosystems will be soon live on, if not already. And the plan
Right.
is, to just, make sure that we're actually catering to the right founders across the ecosystem, given that, what you're building is super valuable no matter what chain you're at. Just maybe the technical nuances might be slightly different. And luckily, we have a great engineering team here who sort of can, build that out for us.
Yeah, you guys grew quite fast in the bear market, did you not? I think initially when we spoke a few months back, it was quite a lean team of a few members, and congratulations on that in going from that to almost 20 team members.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
No, thanks, Mo. And I think a lot of the credit for that goes to builders like yourself, who have, of course, also believed in what we're trying to solve and kind of how we're trying to create value for the ecosystem as a whole. And I think a lot of credit for that goes to some of the people who've supported us monetarily for that as well. And also believe in this vision that we're trying to achieve, which has helped us scale our project very quickly despite some of the market conditions.
Right, and let's talk about the future around it. So, how do you see as Interact is still a product that is being almost, I would say, it's a very unique product when you think about it, right? It's almost being like tailor made to different categories within the Web3 space. So, I guess your dashboard works a bit different and is more personalized to NFT community, as opposed to when you compare it to a DAO, and then if you compare that to a DeFi. Um, how do you see Interact evolving over the next year?
Okay, so I think
Yeah.
more the way to look at it is definitely different personalized dashboards for different categories of the customers that are working with. But we eventually actually want to scale it up, and therefore from all these learnings that we have, right, with basically literally just annoying you on every single call, telling us
Hmm.
wrong with the product or not, is to get to that stable state of building out those products that then start sustaining themselves. But even more importantly, build out something that's say more fundamental at the protocol or the infrastructure level that sort of can, then plug and play into all these categories all at once, right? So the broad idea is, if I have to like sum it up, from these learnings, we're creating these stable state solutions. But eventually, we actually do have something very interesting in our head, which sort of can be fundamental to blockchain marketing across different categories of projects, right? And if I have to just say it out, it's basically there is transparency in the ecosystem, but not trust. And we
Hmm.
actually sort of want to build that trust in this transparency, so to speak, right? By making sense of this data that you have lying around, that no one is for some reason using it.
Right, exactly. And coming to one more interesting thing, right? So, at least from my perspective, I see like a big opportunity for education. What are your future educational plans when it comes both to because I see it almost like a two or three fold approach, right? See it one for the founders and investors. I see it second, being widely adopted and utilized by community managers.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I think Mo, I know we keep shelling about this again and again, but I think on the point that you mentioned, this is actually one of the other reasons, right, why we're so excited about launching our own decentralized community, because
Hmm.
what that helps us do is also create those playbooks that, of course, we want to be able to roll out for everyone who's building in this space, right? How can we get that thought leadership and apply that maybe in the form of some playbooks that you can apply, or in the form of some simple tools that anyone can just plug and play and start using and getting value from day one itself. And so that education, we believe, is extremely important for all of us, for one marketer to learn from another, for us to learn from marketers, and for
Hmm.
other marketers who come after us to learn from us as well. And so it's this entire ecosystem that we sort of want to collapse into this one single community, which we're calling a DAO. And hopefully that will pave the way for a lot of these playbooks and educational resources to get created.
Nice. Wow. Quite excited. Like personally, I know I'm quite excited with what you guys are building and how it has evolved in the last few weeks, I would say, and quite a lot to experience in the weeks to come as well. So before I wrap things up, I have shared about where people can find you and so on, and I try to ask this question to most of my guests. Right? How can we help to
Uh,
get your message out to help you to excel?
No, absolutely. If you truly like what we're doing, or if you believe in what we're trying to solve, then really it would go a long, long way. If you could maybe perhaps talk to anyone else that you feel could work with us, that may have feedback to share with us on what we can do better. If you wish to yourself become a part of our DAO, or wish to give some of what we're building a try yourself, then like always happy. With our kind of our phone or whatever you want to call it, it's always open, and feedback is always welcome. And really, yeah, that's I think pretty much the spirit. If we can, the community helps each other out. We would love to help you guys if you guys can help us as well in our journey to build better products for the future of marketing in Web3. Then that's really all we can ask for.
De- Definitely. I think this space is all about collaboration rather than competition. I think
Totally.
it's everyone's building most people are building such unique and beautiful tools, solutions, and learning from each other is quite valuable. And this thing that Approve mentioned, there's transparency, but there's no trust. And building that trust is what you guys are doing. So, really excited to continue on this journey with you.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks a lot, Mo. I mean, you've been super amazing as a mentor, as a friend, and yeah, hopefully we can keep going. Both of us, you, me, interact, everyone.
Yep, definitely. I think it's all a collective vision for the better good, right? I
Yeah,
guess I think that's my takeaway whenever I talk to teams such as yours. It's really it excites me because I know what you're doing is really trying to solve issues, like real issues, time consuming ones, resource wise. So you're really trying to optimize that, and you're trying to identify and help elevate not just the projects or the community managers or the community leaders, but almost like translating that into identifying who true community contributors are. And it creates this whole new benchmark by saying, challenging other community members by saying, hey, you know what, I can do better, I can contribute better now, I did not know how to participate in this community. I thought just showing up and saying good morning works, but I guess it requires a bit more than the good morning.
totally.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the time and the knowledge that you've shared. What I will be doing as well, is at the wrap up of this, I'll be sharing links to Interact on our Twitter. So you can go check them out. I'll also share links for Sambhav's and Aprov's Twitter as well. So that'll be easy to connect. And till the next time,
Yeah,
have a great
yeah.
Yeah,
day.
absolutely. It's been an absolute pleasure, Mo, as always. So nothing different this time, but thank you so much for having us. And yeah, take care.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Godspeed, everyone. Bye.
Thank you very much. See you guys. Bye.